Welcome back, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about simple interest on deposits and partial withdrawals. So we're going to be going through two different methods of figuring this out. The first one will be the direct method. The second one will be the numeral method, and we're going to be going through in both of those today. So here it says to determine the interest on June 23rd of 2022 of a savings account that pays an interest rate of 6% annually, given the following. The balance was $10,000 on January 1st, 2021. There was a withdrawal on June 9th, 2021, and there was a deposit of $8,000 on February 22nd of 2022. All right, so let's start with the direct method first. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write down the first date that we're given here, which is January 1st of 2021. So let's do that. January 1st, 2021. And then what was our balance? So we're going to put here W for withdrawal, D for deposit, B for balance, D for days, and I for interest accrued. So in this first one, we know that the days, actually here I should put days and then here deposit, withdrawal, and balance, interest. There we go. Because I'm realizing that could be a bit ambiguous. So there we go. So balance would be $10,000 as of this day. Then there was a withdrawal of $3,000 on June 9th of 2021. So I'm going to write that down too. June 9th, 2021, withdrawal of $3,000 there. And so overall, the simple balance in this case would be $3,000 less, so the balance would be $7,000 for the next part. Now, this is not taking into account yet the simple interest. Now, the reason we don't have to take that into account in each step is because with simple interest, it doesn't actually accrue on the interest on itself, right? It only accrues on the overall principal that we're depositing. Right. Now, of course, that's not really very realistic. A lot of people point that out, that simple interest is not very realistic, and I agree. That is absolutely true. It's not very realistic. It would be much more realistic to use compound interest, but this is one of the topics in financial math, so I am going over it for that reason. Okay. Next, it says there was a deposit of $8,000 February 22nd of 2022. And so, therefore, that means that we would put 8,000 here for deposit. And that means the total balance would be, for principal at least, would be $15,000. And then we want to know what the overall answer is as of June 23rd, 2022. I know that isn't actually today as of when you're watching this, but let's pretend as though that is today, even though I'm aware that it isn't. And here I'm going to put $15,000 for the balance. Okay, so next thing I need to do is I need to fill in the number of days. So how many days are between January 1st and June 9th? Well, let's see. There are 31 days in January. There's 28 days in February, 31 in March, 30 in April, and 31 in May. And then in June, well, there's actually, I think, 30 days in June, I believe, but we're just going to put 9 days because there's only 9 days between these two times. And then I'm going to add all of this up. So 31 plus 28 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31 plus 9 gives me 160 days. So I'm going to put 160 here because there's 160 days between January 1st and June 9th. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing for between June 9th and February 22nd. So overall in June, there are 30 days, but we've already counted the first 9, so just the other 21 days for June for the next calculation. So 21 days for June, 31 for July, 31 again for August, 30 for September, 31 for October, 30 for November, and 31 for December, 31 again for January. Let's see. Yeah, 31 for January. And then for February, just 22 instead of the full 28 because we're going up to February 22nd. So I'm going to add all this up. 21 plus 31 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31 plus 31 plus 22 gives me 258 days. So there's 258 days between June 9th and February 22nd. All right, and now we need to figure out how many days there are between February 22nd of 2022 and June 23rd of 2022. So luckily that's not that long, so not that many days for us to have to count. So for February, there's going to be 6 days left, just the 23rd through the 28th. So just 6 days left of February. March would be 31 days. April is 30, May 31. And then June would be just the 23 days because we're only including up to the first 23 days of June. So if I add that up, I get 6 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31 plus 23 is a total of 121 days. All right, so now we finished the days calculation, and we would like to figure out the interest. So next we're going to go ahead and fill in the interest column. So in the first section, we're just going to put 0 because on the day that we deposit the $10,000, we have not accrued any interest yet. So then we have to start with this next one here. So to calculate the interest for as of the time period between January 1st and June 9th, we need to use CIN over 360. Now, a lot of people would ask, how come it's 360 rather than 365? And that's basically just, a simplification, also known as a banker's year, just to kind of simplify things. Often 360 is used rather than 365. Okay, so in this case, it's going to be $10,000 as our principal times the interest rate was 6% annually. Okay, so 0.06. And then times the number of days. So the number of days here was 160. And that's all over 360. So I'm going to multiply that $10,000 times 0.06 times 160 divided by 360 is about $266.67. And so that's what I'm going to put in this column here, 266.67, like that. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the second one. So I is equal to CIN over 360. So this time, the balance overall, now that we have withdrawn 3,000 here, is 7,000, right? So it's 7,000 times 0.06 times the number of days, and that 7,000 is there for 258 days before there's any other withdrawals or deposits, so that's over 360. And let's multiply that, 7,000 times 0.06 times 258 divide by 360 is $301. So even though there was less in there, because it was enough more days, we still ended up with a bit more interest there. And then I'm going to do the last interest calculation, which occurs for 121 days, and where the balance for that part is $15,000, because that's after we put another deposit in of $8,000. So in this one, interest is equal to CIN over 360, which is $15,000 times 6% interest rate, times our number of days of 121 all over 360. And that's going to be 302.5, so $302.50. And there we go. So to answer their question about what was the total amount of simple interest, we could just add these three numbers up and say that the answer is 266.67 plus 301 plus 302.5. That is going to be $870.17 of interest. And that's called the direct method. That's one method of doing this entire thing. Now, let's say that method didn't resonate with you, or you want to learn numeral method. I'm also going to go over the numeral method as well, which is a little bit different. So we're still going to have actually most of this exactly the same. The only thing that we're going to change is we're going to overall add up all the numbers of days together and calculate the overall numeral rather than calculating the interest directly. And then we'll just do one big interest calculation at the end. So for the numeral method, I'm going to keep everything same as it is, except, and actually I'm going to put the number in the corner that we got just to make sure we do get the same answer for the numeral method, because we should get the same answer for either one. I'm just going to get rid of all the interest calculations and the interest column, and I'm going to replace it with the numeral column. All right, now we need to calculate the numeral. So how can we do that? Well, first we're going to multiply 10,000, which was our initial balance, by 160 to get 160 with 4 extra zeros on the end. Then we're going to do 7,000, which is our next balance, times 258, which is our next number of days. Let's see, 7,000 times 258 is, let's see, about 1.8 million. So 1,806,000. So yeah, about 1.8 million there. And then the next one is 15,000 for the next numeral times 121. So 15,000 times 121, or sorry, not, oh yes, it is 121. So yeah, 121 times 15,000 is also about 1.8, a little more actually though. Okay, and now I'm going to add all my numerals up. So 1.8 plus another 1,806 plus 160, 4 zeros. Overall, that's going to get me 5,221,000. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do the interest calculation one time. So interest is still equal to CIN over 360. So therefore, it's going to give me, let's see, the numeral just times the interest rate. So the numeral is going to be 5,221,000 times the interest rate, which is 6% over 360. And that gives me the same thing as before, $870.17. Now, if you don't get the same thing for both, that means some sort of error, some sort of problem occurred somewhere in one or both of them. Now, that said, in general, you probably won't be asked to do both. I did want to show both methods just to see which one resonates with each person best. But typically, one method is good enough to answer this question. So therefore, the answer is that as of June 23rd, 2022, the overall interest that will have been made is $870.17.